I went back and I watched the videos that anybody can watch in the social media, and I watched them one more gut-wrenching time. As a father, I can't get the image out of my head of a man who held up his dead child, wailing while chaos swirled around him.
The Secretary of State weighs in as tough talk on Syria intensifies. We'll update the when and the if as it relates to possible action. Also, progress made with those massive wildfires in California, and you will not believe just how many firefighters are working the blaze. Of course, some say New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is working toward the White House in 2016. But yesterday he was stumping for the New York Jets. Some say a failed campaign already. This is way too early. Sorry to take a shot at the New York Jets so early. As a Patriots fan, watch, they'll beat the Pats twice now. Good morning, everybody. I'm Brian Shackman. Tuesday, August the 27th. A little bit later in the cooler, we'll have Letterman, of course, chiming in on Miley Cyrus. And we have a bit of a lowbrow section of the show. No joke. We have a story on drive-in prostitution and a topless news interviewer. But I do want to begin on a much more somber and serious note this morning. The latest on Syria. The top U.S. officials now say chemical weapons were used, and the president is considering a limited military strike on select targets inside that country. Yesterday, UN inspectors visited the site of the attacks, and though there are very low expectations, folks, for what their probe will actually uncover, Secretary of State John Kerry says there is little doubt as to what happened there.
What we saw in Syria last week should shock the conscience of the world. It defies any code of morality. Let me be clear. The indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, the killing of women and children and innocent bystanders by chemical weapons is a moral obscenity. The reported number of victims, the reported symptoms of those who were killed or injured, the first-hand accounts from humanitarian organizations, these all strongly indicate that everything these images are already screaming at us is real, that chemical weapons were used in Syria.
The question now is what comes next. At least 2 destroyers and a submarine armed with cruise missiles are already in striking range of Syrian military targets. However, direct attacks on chemical weapon caches have been ruled too dangerous to civilian populations. Strikes on President Bashar al-Assad, they have been also ruled out. Any action will likely be without UN backing, with Russia blocking any support. Some congressional leaders, including Speaker John Boehner, want the president to consult Congress before taking any action, and many on both sides of the aisle are opposed to any military action altogether, saying Syria is too far gone to take sides. Meanwhile, in Egypt, after days of bloody fighting and riots, 2 Islamic militant groups are calling for a truce with the army. The move is designed to open the dialogue between the military and the Muslim Brotherhood, which has been weakened in these recent set of crackdowns. Supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood were staging sit-downs for weeks, and that led to the violent standoffs that led to more than 1,000 dead. The Brotherhood promised an end to the protests if military stops its attacks and messaging against the group. Now to the West Coast here in the U.S., where crews are making some inroads, thankfully, on the wildfires threatening Yosemite National Park. Officials now say 20% of the rim fire has been contained. Yesterday, of course, it was just about 7%. However, firefighters still have their hands full as the blaze threatens thousands of rural buildings, as well as Tulum City and San Francisco's water supply from the ash. It is the 13th largest fire in California history. And get this, 9,000 firefighters from several local, state, and federal agencies have been deployed to deal with this situation. President Obama, he's chimed in, pledging full support to Governor Jerry Brown. Well, believe it or not, another battle over the debt ceiling is looming on Capitol Hill. The Treasury Department announced it would hit its borrowing limit in mid-October and not be able to pay all of its bills soon after that time. Congress and the White House are still far apart, as you might imagine, on a solution. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew sent a letter to congressional leaders saying a failure to raise the limit could, quote, undermine financial markets and result in significant disruptions to our economy, end quote. From the debt battle to the fight over President Obama's health care law, yes, we are talking about it yet again. Opponents of the law are planning a defunding rally on September the 10th. That's just 3 weeks before millions can start enrolling in coverage. Republican Senators Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and Mike Lee will headline the event, which is being organized by Tea Party groups. Pressure, of course, mounting for Republicans who have resisted joining the fight to defund it. The latest target, Republican leader Mitch McConnell. The Senate Conservatives Fund is spending nearly $50,000 on a 60-second commercial attacking McConnell. The group was founded by former Republican Senator Jim DeMint. That story about the rodeo clown who was fired after he wore an Obama mask says he never intended the stunt to be disrespectful. Tuffy Gessling says he has since received 5 death threats following his performance at the August 10th Missouri State Fair when he had that mask on. He's now speaking out, telling local stations in Kansas City that he wasn't singling out President Obama.
This clown bit has been around for generations, and I didn't think anything more of it than what we've done 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when we've done it with Bush and Clinton and Ronald Reagan.
And Nixon. Gessling went on to say that if President Obama showed up at one of his rodeos, quote, I would be honored to shake his hand, end quote. Army Staff Sergeant Ty Carter has been recognized for his valor in battle, but it's his commitment to veterans that is still inspiring others. President Obama awarded him the Medal of Honor in front of members of his unit who survived one of the most fearsome attacks in the war in Afghanistan. 400 Taliban fighters stormed their position on the Pakistan border. They had rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, machine guns. In the end, 8 Americans were killed, 25 were wounded. Carter's numerous acts of valor, including sprinting through fire at least 3 times to replenish others' ammunition, that earned him the medal. But it's his work with veterans who like himself, struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's leaving the lasting impression.
Look at this man. Look at this soldier. Look at this warrior. He's as tough as they come, and if he can find the courage and the strength to not only seek help, but also to speak out about it, to take care of himself and to stay strong, then so can you. So can you.
George Zimmerman managing to keep himself in the news these days. The latest, his attorney Mark O'Mara has told the Orlando Sentinel Zimmerman plans to ask the state of Florida to cover $200,000 to $300,000 of his legal expenses. Zimmerman's lawyer based his claim on a state law that requires Florida to pay all his legal costs. O'Mara said that he was going to make a motion asking the circuit judge to authorize those payments. A new report suggests Larry Summers could be named the head of the Federal Reserve when Ben Bernanke steps down. CNBC is citing a source inside the Obama camp who says Summers will likely be named chairman of the Federal Reserve in a few weeks, though he is, quote, still being vetted, so it might take a little bit longer. Many believe the race is down to 2 between Summers and Fed Vice Chairman Janet Yellen. The reporting comes from CNBC's John Harwood, and he will join us a little bit later on Morning Joe.